Thank you. And I guess I'd like to start out by just seconding all the praise that's been showered on ARPA-E for its achievements to date, and my gratitude to Bart Gordon for his role in initiating this. And I'd also like to emphasize that this is complementary to the role that national labs play. An example of that would be, since we're talking about batteries, the J. Caesar program, where one of the main deliverables is computer models of battery chemistries that will be developed and maintained by a large team of people that has to stay around more than 3 years. So it's not a one-shot thing. This will be a national resource and I think the labs are appropriate stewards for this. But there's a real need for something like ARPA-E to fill gaps in the private sector research and development. You know, you can sort of analyze this as why, if this is such a great idea, isn't the private sector doing it? And the reasons that occur when you ask venture capitalists, they said, well, this is too long term, that the payoff will be outside the patent window. And that's, it's a real reason for ARPA-E to exist. The second is the low probability of success. Now, you're placing some bets that are unlikely to pay off. They'll be transformative if they do, but, and that's not an attractive investment to a VC firm that has to show the fund is making money after some small span of years. The third reason that I'd like to look into a little bit is the lack of patentable intellectual property. Very often you have a great idea, and this is wonderful, it will be transformative if it works, but it's not really patentable. And very often venture capitalists won't invest in that. And I was wondering how you handle the issue of patentable IP, both in the selection of projects to decide to get behind, and also when you contemplate follow-on funding and the probability of handing off to the private sector where patentable IP will be important. Either Dr. Williams or Dr. Mudgeon.
So I'll start. I would say that ARPA-E's commercialization activities strongly encourage its teams to develop patentable IP. We don't initially select on the basis of whether or not they have patents or patentable IP. As they move forward, there are certainly different models for companies. There are many types of technologies which, if they can't be patented, are kept as company proprietary secrets. ARPA-E supports our project teams in developing such technologies and respects when they need to develop that proprietary technologies and move it forward without risk of exposure. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, Dr. Griffin.
Writing and obtaining patents is really easy, and you can do it all day. It's expensive, so you want to do it as little as possible when you're starting new technology companies. I think it's a very bad predictor of success, but it's it's easily measurable, so we use it, but it's not at all good. In the global marketplace today, and because of the dysfunctionalities of the whole patent process, your really only advantage now is speed to market. And in as much as what do patents exist for? Maybe to help you get financing. But apart from that, it's all about speed of execution, so it's the wrong thing to measure.
Yeah. So how much of this has to do with, what I view, frankly, as the sort of assault on the patent system that's happened in the last several years, led actually by Congress, the, sort of systematic weakening of patent holder rights and various reforms that have been passed?
I think it's more fundamental and structural than that. The patent system has existed long enough that it's now easily gamed.
In what sense?
The large corporations can play it very easily. They can afford to. Small companies that are doing the really innovative thing can't. And you can have cynical large corporations basically outmaneuver you. And so I think that's one example of a structural problem. We evolved through lobbying the patent system towards advantaging large companies because they could afford to, and small companies who do the innovation are disadvantaged in the patent playing field.
Mm. Well, also when they try to enforce those patents, they're characterized as trolls and so on. It's
yes.
Yeah, Dr. Mills? Or Mr.
Mr. Mills, yeah, I was one of the ones that quit graduate school, but I wasn't as successful as Bill Gates when he quit graduate school. It's a very good
quit
point.
Undergrad, if I remember properly. But
the patent issue is interesting, and I agree with Dr. Griffith that it can be gamed and often is. And I'm worried about the attack on the patent system because it's not just in the Constitution, it has real merit. But I would point out as an active venture capitalist that patents are only one measure of what you would make an investment. Frequently, it's not speed to market is critical, but there are many things one does in a technology business, and I know you know this is truth, that are what would you call process knowledge and domain knowledge that you deliberately don't patent, because once you patent them, you've told people how to do it. And it's remarkable how much of innovation lies in that area and how little really lies in the patents. So I just for the record, I think, and that's a hard one to measure. That's measuring the team, which is a challenge for RPE and it's a challenge for venture capitalists.
Okay, and we've had a lot of sort of discussion of transformative high payoff research, but yet Dr. Griffith's examples he gave, many of them seemed incremental. You know, a 20% decrease in the tank weight for compressed air, or a change in the actuator mechanism for solar tracking, which, you know, it's a potentially good idea that will take over that segment of the market, but will not really transform the economics of solar power. And I was just wondering how you view, you know, what is the payoff that you're shooting for? You know, something that will transform a very small sector and make an incremental improvement. Yeah, Dr. Williams?
So I would say that I wouldn't measure incremental in the sense of 20% or 10% impact on the energy. It's incremental, I consider to be a fundamental the idea of how the technology transforms the approach. So something like the pointing mechanism based on a completely different technical approach, that's a technical innovation. It is far from incremental. It really transforms the mechanism. And what we see in an innovation system is that what are initially small projects like that combine together to create a whole learning curve, which ultimately grows and blossoms and creates much bigger impacts overall. And so this comes down to some of Dr. Majumdar's comments about the need for patience. The innovations
And that's helpful. We'll probably have to stop you there, Dr. Williams, because we're past time, and we'll go to Mr. Caston for 5 minutes.